Cullen live in 1 minute. Welcome to Lynn Cullen Live at pghcitypaper.com. Email your questions and comments to Lynn at pghcitypaper.com.
Why, hello. Welcome to a blustery Monday, the last Monday in the third month of the year 2016, I believe, yes. It being a Monday, I'm going to start out slow, tiptoe in. These Mondays keep coming one atop the other, just like clockwork. So I have to tell you, I'm sorry about this, but I have to tell you a little bit about my Saturday afternoon, okay? I was having people for dinner, so I had to do what I hate doing, which is go to the grocery store. And it occurred to me, it's Saturday before Easter. The place will be mobbed. Weekends are not the time to go anyway, but oh, God, I thought, oy. But I took a deep breath and told myself to go zen and que sera, sera. Got plenty of time. Just relax. So I find myself in front of Whole Foods. That's not where I'm going. I don't darken the door at Whole Foods. I find it, I don't know, pretentious. I find it expensive. Yeah, I find it. And then, I once read, and I think I told you about this, the guy who owns it is a friggin' Republican who figured out how to pick the pockets of liberals, because that's who goes to Whole Foods. And I thought, not my pocket. Anyway, I rarely go there. So I'm at I hope this isn't dull. I'm at a stoplight. I am behind another car. The light turns green. In my zen-like state, I wait patiently for the car in front of me to proceed, which is what you do when the light turns green. It did not. It just sat there. I thought, he'll see it. No. So finally, I'd say I gave him 3 seconds. That's a long time. 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi. And then I just beep. Not a just a beep. Hey, beep. People behind you here, beep. Maybe you were daydreaming, beep. I appreciate it sometimes. I mean, I don't want to hold people up. He went, and I proceeded behind him. And then, out of his window, his arm comes, and his finger up in the air. He's given me his middle finger. And I'm behind him, and I'm thinking, oh, come on. It was a little poop, and it was meant to poop. Wasn't anything aggressive about what I did, nor untoward. And he's like shaking it, rotating it. And then out of his sunroof, another finger thumbs. I don't even know how this guy's driving. There are fingers out of every, and I'm thinking, Jesus, God, I sort of back away. I think this guy's that is way overreacting. He kept that up for all the way to the Market District, which is what, about 2 blocks. 2 long blocks. And I actually, at one point, thinking he might be looking in his rearview mirror to see if I'm getting I said to him, I was trying to say, I wasn't doing this back. I was just saying, calm down, you asshole. He couldn't hear that. I said, geez. So we finally it turns out, he's turning into the Market District, making a left in front of me, exactly where I'm going. I'm thinking, so it's not always easy making that left. But amazingly, this very nice driver in the other lane going the other direction stopped, clearly saying to him, go ahead. And you know what he did? He just stood there. He just stayed. You know why? He knew I was behind him, and he wanted to screw me up a little bit more. I'm thinking, what a jerk. What a jerk. Maybe I should go to another grocery store. What if I, bump into him in the, really, the ethnic aisle, and he comes at me or something. I thought, geez, he doesn't go. I'm thinking, I ain't tooting. I am just going to sit here and think, what a jerk. And then finally, maybe 2 cars behind me, because he was holding up a whole bunch of people, somebody honks. And it was a lot longer than my initial beep. Not surprisingly, out comes the finger. The fingers are all over the place, but he finally makes the left. Jesus. He goes one way, I go the other. I wouldn't know him if I saw him. And I began thinking, I wonder which one he is and if we'll encounter each other but not know who the other is. So the store is very crowded. He's in the store somewhere, this deranged lunatic. And I go over to the meat counter. I needed help, so I'm where they help you. And there's a ton of people. And I'm waiting, and I'm waiting. And I lift my foot to give it a little, just to rest it on something. I have a bad back, and sometimes elevating one leg helps a little bit. So I did, and I dropped it down onto the lip of, I guess, a shelf that was right there under it. Imagine my surprise when this unbelievable crash happened. And not only did I hear it, I felt it as my body was absolutely splashed with something, I don't know what. And when I dared look down, I had, by sticking my foot up and putting it on this shelf, taken down a huge display of Giant Eagle olive oil. It was one of those unbelievable crashes where the whole place, this busy Saturday before Easter place, everybody like, whoa! The cop who's there comes running over. I mean, it was people looked in astonishment and horror as olive oil spread all over in front of the meat counter, like a really important area of the shop. And I'm standing there. I can feel the olive oil in my shoes. I can feel that there's olive oil all over my pants. And it's weird when you've done something like that inadvertently. What do you do? There was no one around for me to say, oh, whoops. I did turn to somebody next to me and say, whoop, and they didn't respond. I thought, uh-oh. Then some woman comes barreling out from behind them, and she says, move back! Move back! And she kept pushing me and moving. Watch it! There's glass all over the place. Oh, my God. Somebody call murderers. I mean, and they are on it. They ended up, it was like an oil spill. So all of a sudden, they're putting like barriers of some kind of thing that soaks up oil around it. Some 3 or 4 men are trying to. I created a horrible, horrible mess. So I thought, I'm just going to tiptoe away. No one will know. 'Twas me. So I get my cart and I'm tiptoeing away, and then I notice my cart is making 2 lines of olive oil down on the floor, and my feet. There's olive oil imprints. And I thought, just keep walking. It's got to eventually, the olive oil's got to run out here. I mean, you kind of get. And I did. I finally outran my footprints and my. God! I'm just saying, that was my trip to the grocery store. Not very fun. But you know what happened when I got home and I took my shoes off? By the way, how do you get olive oil? What do you do with it? I don't know. So I took my shoes off. My socks were soaked. I took my shoes and socks off, and do you know, my feet. Really, if we were in a different situation, I would even let you pet them. My feet are the softest feet it was amazing. They weren't before I took the whole damn display down, but now my feet had an olive oil bath that lasted almost an hour. And they're still soft. I checked them today. They're still soft. So just saying. Olive oil. Okay, that was it. Here's a quote I came upon in the course of my reading today, and I thought it was funny. And so I thought I'd share it with you. It is a comedian who's making an observation about making an observation about the state of our political discourse, politics, whatever. And here's what he says. There's nothing more American than standing firm and resolute in the face of rational thought. Ain't that it? Ain't that it? Does that not describe every Republican candidate? By the way, speaking of every Republican candidate, all of you people who are hoodwinked into thinking Kasich, our next-door neighbor here, is some mild-mannered, rational, moderate. You are out of your minds, okay? Let me just clarify. There was a piece which I failed to cut out, should have. Maybe I read it on Saturday. I don't know. And it was about the fact that everybody in politics who has known John Kasich for the last 25, 30 years in his career, in which he was in Congress, in which he was in the executive branch, in which he has been, of course, the governor of a state. I mean, he's got a real strong political resume. But the article was about the fact that all of these people who have known him in the past, as he made his way to where he is today, they say in one voice, we don't even recognize this guy. This ain't the John Kasich we know. And then you would ask, well, who was the John Kasich you knew? He was mean. Everybody says he's mean. He flies off the handle. He cuts people down in public, in meetings, and he's a jerk. So let us now. And it came from Democrats, Republicans, everybody. In fact, I think John Boehner was, maybe Newt Gingrich. Newt Gingrich was interviewed because he was the Speaker of the House when Kasich was in. And I believe it was Gingrich who took him aside. How would Gingrich have ever given this advice? I'm going back to Boehner. Boehner, somebody, takes him aside and says, hey, you're going about things wrong. You cannot be as much of a jerk, essentially, if you want to work in a collegial way. Because, there's like a few hundred other guys here who hold the same status you do, and you ain't going to get anywhere being a jerk. He was a jerk. All of a sudden, he's not a jerk. Why? Because he saw that was the way he wanted to, and wisely, position himself when he finds himself on stage with the clowns he found himself on stage with. He thought, okay, how do I distinguish myself from this motley crew? I will do it by being the wise, steady, gentle, the anti-Trump. That's what I will do. I will not raise my voice. I will not. So this is a pose that he has taken on to possibly, he wouldn't have done as well if he hadn't. That is what set him apart. After a debate in which he was the only one who hadn't, mentioned his penis or something, he'd see his poll numbers tick up. And he's thinking, well, this is the way I'm going to do it. But I just want to clarify that this guy ain't what you think he is. He also is a guy who has just destroyed women's health care in Ohio. Okay? So let's not get, misty-eyed about poor John Kasich, because I do hear that from people. What? Margie? Margie tells me Sister Angelina just died. You remember I said her name the other day and my sister thought I meant Mother Teresa? I meant Sister Angelina. She's dead. Hello. Hi, caller.
How you doing today?
I knew it was you. How are you
I'm not
doing?
gonna rant today.
Wait. How are you doing? Because
I'm fine.
I think you need some Xanax.
Yeah. No, seriously.
Yeah, seriously.
Kasich, do you remember when he had the talk show, how ignorant he was?
No.
He had a show on Fox, my darn dog.
Jeez, is he about to...
He had a show on Fox, and he was such an arrogant, abrupt man, just like you said, ignorant and everything. But his record in Ohio is not that great.
No.
There's 3 areas that he left behind, and he's tax cuts for the rich, cuts Social Security. He's all about the same thing the Republicans, maybe
exactly
even worse
right.
sometimes.
Exactly right.
So anybody think he's a moderate, he's far from that.
Yeah. No, you're right. And I think people need to see that. Right.
Yes.
I was so glad to see that article because I didn't know that much about him.
And he has to win 8 states to even be on another ballot. So he's not going to pull that off.
No,
him
the only way he pulls it off is if there is a contested convention and the delegates cannot stomach Trump or Cruz, and somehow Kasich rises on the 6th ballot out of the... I don't know. It's possible. That's his only way.
And Cruz's wife, she's like a spokeswoman for NAFTA. She's free trader. She's Goldman Sachs. I mean, he acts like he's out of the.
I know, that's what's so funny. He like runs against Goldman Sachs.
Yeah, and he's part of that too. So I don't understand it.
It's what's buying his peanut butter.
Trump would call him.
I know. I hear you. All right, you have a good day.
You do the same.
Okay.
Okay, bye.
Bye. So Sister Angelina, she's the one. She's in a full habit, and she's praying the rosary every time, sometimes if I'm like just hopping through. Well, I don't know anything. If she just died? How weird. I brought her name up and she drops dead. Little Tony writes, I loved your story about Market District. I hate that store. I hate that store on a weekly basis. I do too. Why do we hate it so much? So it hit home. It's poorly designed. Is that what it is? It just doesn't work. It's just I could picture that meat counter in my mind. Very, very funny. Thanks for the laugh. Well, I'm glad it. I must have told the story okay then. Good. Thank you, Tony. It was, man, you should have seen me slinking away. Dripping olive oil. Jeez. At one point, somebody did come up while I was still there, and they said, how'd this happen? What happened? And I just, just tried to melt into the crowd. So, yeah. Okay. May I just say something that probably most of you don't care about, and this isn't a sports talk show, but I do somewhat follow sports. And the lead story in the local paper today, the Post-Gazette, is the hiring of a new basketball coach by the University of Pittsburgh. That's the lead story. Never mind that 70-some people were blown to pieces while they were picnicking in Lahore. Pitt hires Vanderbilt coach. Stallings, his name is. Oh, Stallings. There's that wonderful Groucho Marx song, isn't there, where he's supposedly, his name is... Never mind. So, Pitt hires Vanderbilt coach Stallings. Now, this is after, of course, the March Madness that didn't last long for Pitt, which is usually the case, and thus the leave-taking of longtime coach, and very much like coach, Jamie Dixon, who decamped to his alma mater somewhere in Texas. So Pitt is in need of a new basketball coach. And they find this guy from Vanderbilt. Now understand that right now this guy is probably making more money than the chancellor. Signed a 6-year deal, right? But I got to tell you, so I thought, God, is this guy good? I don't remember Vanderbilt being a big basketball school. And they put his record up. Wins, losses, how many trips to the Sweet 16, the Elite 8, the Final Four. He's not even as good as Dixon was. What'd they hire him for? And not only that, I want to say this. He's old. And I want to say something else. He's white. And I want to say I am sick and tired of these old white men being recycled from coaching job to coaching job to coaching job to coaching job, while younger black men who played the game, who've been assistant coaches, who've been sitting on the damn benches all over this country, never seem to get a leg up. If you're an old white fart, and how old is this guy? He's like 66 or something. I mean, come on, back off, go away. If you were some kind of a unbelievable winner or closer, I can see it. Then it turns out that the guy who hired him, the new athletic director at Pitt, is part of a nice little old boys network that includes the head search guy that was looking for, I'll find you a coach. And he finds him a coach that he's placed in other places. That's this guy. He also is a guy who gave our AD a job. It is this incestuous, relatively very small group of white men. And I just want to say about this hire, I don't have to be a genius about basketball. This hire stinks, and I'm sorry for Coach Stallings, but he is not going to get a warm reception here. If Dixon wasn't good enough to keep, then why the hell do you hire someone with a worse record who's 10 years older and looks like a jerk? Excuse me. Thank you very much. I had to get that off my chest. What is that? Oh, but there's no white privilege. Being white doesn't give you a leg up. Oh, speaking of being white, I just got a quick update on Wendy. Time out. Quick update on Wendy Bell. It turns out, yes, she has not been on the air since this unfortunate Facebook posting of hers. But it turns out, and I have on good authority, she is actually on vacation. This was a planned vacation. However, I also have it on pretty good authority that it ain't over for her. And surprisingly, it is conceivable that she will face some disciplinary action on the part of the station, which I am shocked by. I really am. So, anyway, Mary, who is one of our listeners, wrote me this. Ever since the Wendy Bell scandal broke, I have been experiencing epic amounts of schadenfreude. Did I pronounce that right? Schadenfreude. Meaning taking pleasure in another's misfortune. I don't know why, says Mary. It's kind of like I'm back in high school and the head cheerleader just got caught blowing the quarterback in the boys' restroom. We know what you mean. We totally know. We get it. But then Mary goes on. Anyway, years ago, there was a feature on Wendy Bell's house in Whirl magazine. My sister-in-law pointed it out to me because it was so ridiculous. In the article, Wendy mentioned creating a nice environment for her children in the morning, even lighting candles and starting a fire in the fireplace. Because, well, they wouldn't see her the rest of the day, and she wanted them to be in a calm environment. Mary writes, I mean, what the fuck? So I took a picture of my son eating a hearty breakfast with a candle lit in front of him and sent it to my sister-in-law. Schadenfreude indeed. We had a good laugh. I still have and she shows me the picture. It's But really, she lights candles at her kids' breakfast table because they won't see her during the day? She puts a... Come on. You know what this reminds me a little bit of? Gwyneth Paltrow. It's why I can't stand her. it's these women who rise to a certain level of where people look up to them and think that they're, authorities of some sort. And then they give advice all the time about life and lifestyles. And I'm thinking, why is it just because you know how to read the news or just because you can act? And in fact, both your parents were actors, so it's easy to get in. What the heck do I have to listen to you about how to live my life? Yes, she wanted them, her children, to be in a calm environment. Well, I don't think they're in a calm environment now. She couldn't light enough candles. House will burn down. It's in my neighborhood. I know if I hear fire trucks, I'll make certain assumptions. Oh. So, you tell I'm just sort of meandering today. It's quite all right. The most amazing story over the weekend, without a doubt. And one of those things, more and more you see things and you think, I wasn't born yesterday. This must be an Onion article. And then it turns out it's not. That it's real. This is one of those. A petition to allow firearms inside the Republican National Convention has collected more than 35,000 signatures, and it's growing. Hey. Can you imagine the thought process that goes through someone's head? And now we're aware there's at least 35,000 of them. Hey, the Republican convention in Cleveland is going to be a really tense affair. There's going to be, as we've heard from one of the front runners, potential of riots. There's going to be passions unloosed. I think that things would be made better if all those delegates in that convention hall were carrying. What kind of a mind works like that? Here's what the petition says. Though Ohio is an open carry state, thank God, which allows for the open carry of guns, the hosting venue, the Quicken Loans Arena. I love that this convention is being held in the Quicken Loans Arena. The absurdity of America on full display. Okay. The venue, the Quicken Loans Arena, strictly forbids the carry of firearms on their premises. In order to ensure the safety of the delegates in July, you must call upon the Republican National Committee to rectify this affront to our Second Amendment freedoms and insist upon a suspension, we've got a call, of the Quicken Loans Arena's unconstitutional gun-free zone loophole. Hello? Hello?
Hello.
Hello?
I don't think I need any Xanax, but...
No, you don't.
The Republican convention in Cleveland.
Yeah.
I was thinking that was something set up by some liberal Democrat.
What, the petition?
Yeah, to prove a point.
Wrong. It's why I thought it was from The Onion.
Yeah, I thought it, when I first read it, I thought it was something that somebody, some Democrats or, somebody thought up, okay, you want open carry? We're going to have this, make it open carry at this convention.
At the most volatile convention in recent American history.
Yeah.
We would like people to all be armed.
Exactly. So just to prove a point. Open carry is like on
wrong.
campuses and all that kind of good stuff.
Right.
Yeah, because I signed the petition.
Did you really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's funny.
I signed it because that's what I thought it was. Somebody's making a point. If you want open carry everywhere, like on college campuses, libraries,
and
schools,
we do.
all this kind of good stuff, how about having an open carry at this convention? Why not?
Why not?
What are you afraid of?
Yeah.
If a bad guy with a gun opens fire, there's going to be plenty of good guys with guns opening fire. Be like, what do they call it? It's a circle of guns. It'll be like this big, huge circle of people shooting each other.
Yeah,
it's the biggest problem.
It's a Republican circle jerk.
Exactly. Yeah, that's why I signed the petition. That's what I thought it was.
Well, sure.
Yeah.
But amazingly, no. I mean, you know what it says?
What?
One of the reasons they're saying they need the guns, Cleveland is a violent city. I think that means black people, doesn't it?
Well, yeah, of course.
Yeah,
Anything
okay.
to say,
I mean, there's those black people in Cleveland.
Going out, after Donald Trump,
Yeah, right. And also, they also cited the threat of terrorism.
It does sit on Lake Erie. And this is, but that's
you don't know that ISIS has submarines in Lake Erie?
Hey, didn't they just find an old German submarine in one of the Great Lakes?
Not in one of the Great Lakes. I think off of the Atlantic coast.
Okay.
I think. Not in one of the. I don't think.
Yeah, there was something. It was sank. No. It was sank during World War II.
Yeah.
A submarine.
Yeah.
And they just raised it. I guess that's how you say that.
Yes.
But that whole. But I think that the kick is, an open carry, and of course there's going to be one volatile person when it's going to walking around. Everybody's going to be tense of who's going to fire first.
God
I think
Almighty.
That'll be very interesting.
No one in their right mind. No one in their right mind. And it can't happen. There's no way that this arena is going to allow it. And there's no way, for God's sakes, that the Secret Service would allow it. I mean, they're protecting some of the people who are going to be there. You can't have... Jeez.
Now we have we'll call it the Republican convention rule about open carry. Like they use that Biden rule. Well, I'm just going by the Republican convention rule. Of course they're not going to allow it, but I just think it's interesting that all these open carry laws and the good guys with the guns, everybody has guns, and don't worry about it. Everybody's going to be safe because everybody has guns.
It's really amazing.
Yeah, what is it? These are really interesting times to live in.
Well, you know what's weird? Here's the disconnect that I think. Because people like this, it seems they don't trust anybody. They're always thinking something bad's going to happen and I have to protect myself. But you see, if you don't trust anybody, why do they trust all of these people they trust that anybody who's got a gun is somehow adept at using that gun and will not mistakenly shoot you while trying to shoot who they think is a terrorist behind you? I mean, why do they feel secure with a bunch of strangers who have guns when they don't feel secure with seemingly anybody else? I guess because they're assuming that all these guys are white guys, and
they're part of their tribe. I got I forget what the last one was. I think it was the shooting in California.
Yeah, you forget which one the last one was.
Yeah, it's very true. And because it's Facebook, and I argue on Facebook. That's what I did. And one of my friends from high school, he was an NRA member, gun lover. And I said, you know what? I give up. That's fine. Everybody, everybody who wants the guns and all these guns, they should be able to get their guns and have their guns. And I said, here's why. I said, most of the people killed by the guns are family members.
Well, that's true.
Or family members,
So that's back to, that's back to sort of Darwinian, So that's a gene pool you don't want to see, getting out into the mix. So maybe...
And that's what I said. Man, he got ticked off. I said, dude. I said, yeah. I said, this is just the fact. I said, if you want these guns and you want everybody to get guns at will, that's fine with me. That's cool. I don't own a gun.
Here's your problem. And maybe you heard the quote I started the show with. There's nothing more American than standing firm and resolute in the face of rational thought.
I made,
You can't argue with these people.
Yeah. I made this little meme. You know how they have those memes, these little posters? I make my own. I had a picture of a bull, standing his ground. I said, the strong stand their ground. Then I had like an owl flag, and it says, the wise sometimes realize that sometimes they're standing on quicksand.
Oh, yeah.
This owl's like flag, and then I had the bull thinking.
Oh, dear.
Because it's like, and it was probably after one of those arguments when I came up with that. They're firm and resolute. They're standing their ground. It's like, yeah, dude, you're standing on quicksand.
Standing on quicksand, you friggin' idiot. Right. Oh, God. You can't make it up. Thank God we were laughing today, because some days I can't.
Well, you know me, I laugh every day.
I know you do. I know. And one day it'll be your last, too.
Yeah, I'm gonna laughing all the way to the grave. I'll die laughing.
Okay, that's okay.
Okay, all right. Have a good day.
Hey, you too. Bye.
Bye.
There's nothing more American than standing firm and resolute in the face of rational thought. Okay, David writes, I always laugh when Republicans mock gun-free zones at their gun-free rallies. Oh, really? Their rallies are gun-free? Also, is this just in? The Georgia governor has just announced he's going to veto this Georgia religious freedom bill, which is just it's a nice name for it's okay to discriminate against gays and trans and any other people who make you uncomfortable in Georgia bill. So the governor, a Republican, is going to veto it. And you know what? I got to tell you, it won't mean a damn thing. You know why? They'll override the veto. There's probably 3 Democrats in the entire legislature. They'll override the veto. But at least the governor is unwilling to. I guess that this is what constitutes a profile in courage, I guess, for this Republican governor to stand up to a Republican legislature. Never mind that the bill is totally unconstitutional. Right? Totally. I mean, the ACLU is already on it. It's toast. It won't get beyond. I mean, it shouldn't get beyond, like, if the dog catcher could hear these things. I mean, it's unconstitutional on its face. So it says the veto will likely infuriate religious conservatives because this was the top priority of that religious group. What religion is that? What religion is that? That says you need the government to allow to protect you so that you can treat your fellow human beings with contempt and or revulsion. Apparently they've tried to get this thing through 3 different sessions and they finally pulled it off. But so here he goes. The corporations that are headquartered in the state were saying, hey, guys, this is going to really hurt us, blah, 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 blah. So maybe that's how he gets it. It's going to hurt us economically, maybe. So I would think he's term limited. Hence the courage. He can't run again. So he was able to do the right thing. They will override. It doesn't matter, I guess. Jesus, what a world. And you want to know why all these people are so angry? They're angry because of this kind of thing. They're angry because gays seem to have taken over and black people seem to have taken over. Oh, man. Hey, and I just want to, on a less humorous note, certainly, this horrific terrorist attack in Pakistan, which, according to the group, was intended to kill Christians on Easter. There's the number of Christians in Pakistan is small. They represent maybe 1% of the population. But this park was in a Christian area, and they figured that, Christians on Easter on a nice day, might go to the park, and they were right. There were Christians there. However, there were more Muslims, because it's sort of like Squirrel Hill in that regard. People think Squirrel Hill is a Jewish community. Jews are in a minority in Squirrel Hill, and they always have been. It's just that Jews are a minority, and they're concentrated in that neighborhood and enjoy a much bigger percentage of the population of that neighborhood than they do in a larger scope. So Jews are like 1% of America. But in Squirrel Hill, maybe they're 40, maybe they're 35 or something. Because there's more Christians and Hindus, and I don't know if there's more Hindus, but there's a huge Asian population there now too. Maybe Buddhists, I don't know. So, I just want to say this about the horror of these bastards targeting families and children. This was a playground. This was a playground. And the vast majority of those dead are women and children. And I'm not even talking about the maimed. I want to point out that I don't think any of our anchors are decamping from Brussels to head over to Lahore, even though this death toll is almost twice as much, if not. And I want to point out again this strange discrepancy in the way our media respond to terrorist attacks that kill innocent people. The fact is, they don't really respond unless they are white people of European descent. And that's a fact. And it's despicable. I also want to point this out. That all the Muslim haters, all the Islamophobes, do they ever realize, do they ever stop again to think, if they're still capable of rational thought, which we suspect they are not, that the overwhelming number of people who they are killing, beheading, torturing, terrorizing are Muslims? I don't know what the percentage is, but I bet it's like 85, 90%. They kill Muslims, these Muslims. They're killing their own. Wrong tribe. Shias. And yeah, man, of course they'll kill Christians. Hell yeah, Jews, sure. Heck, Yazidis, come on. Kurds, of course. But the vast majority are Muslims. They're killing Muslims. And that was the case in Pakistan. Even though immediately the Republicans tried to frame this, of course, as just Christians killed. More Muslims were killed in Lahore, okay? Can you spend a minute worrying about a Muslim child who was killed? Does the value of their existence ever rise to the value of that other dead child who happens to be Christian? What the hell is the difference? Henry writes, I can't remember the last time a new coaching hire generated so much vitriol. The search firm Pitt used is run by Todd Turner, the former athletic director at Vanderbilt, who originally hired Stallings and is now also one of his clients. It's so incestuous. It's despicable. It's a recycled old white men machine. And that's often the case in football coaching as well. And I don't know about you, but when you wonder again, like, what are all these people talking about white privilege? That! A losing white coach, a not particularly gifted white coach, will always be given a second, third, fourth, fifth chance over some young black coach who has never given a first chance as a head coach. I don't know, maybe it's just me, since basketball's all about recruiting. Maybe it's just me. But I would think a high school kid would be more inclined to be wooed and won by a younger black coach than some old friggin' bald white guy. Henry goes on, I think Wendy Bell, at the very least, should have to take sensitivity courses and then do a series of reports about white privilege and black oppression. That'd be good. Oh, and then P.S., because I asked you, it's officially pronounced Henri. But most people call me Henry. But it's spelled Henri. It's spelled Henri, which is why I asked. I'm going to call you Henri. Although I can't do the French R, and I don't know. Oh, Lee writes, if you're going shopping today, there is recycled olive oil now on sale at the Market District. Man, it was it was an oil spill. Thank God there were no birds that I killed. I now join the Exxon Valdez as a culprit in having caused a major oil spill. Okay. Obituary of the day. Bob Ebling. That name might ring a slight bell in the back of your brain, but if you knew who this guy was, I'd be shocked. I mean, if you read the obit, but Bob Ebling, he died at the age of 89. He died in some ways a broken man. And the thing that broke him is something we all know about. And if we could, we would tell Bob that it wasn't his fault. But he didn't see it that way. So I'll take you back to 30 years ago, about then. And Bob Ebling, who was an engineer by profession, was on his way to his company's headquarters in Brigham City, Utah, with his daughter to watch the launch of one of the space shuttles. And he was there because, as an engineer, and he worked for one of the contractors who had worked on it. And his daughter, Leslie, distinctly remembers him leaning over to her in the car and saying this on their way to watch the launch. The Challenger is going to blow up. Everyone's going to die. Bob Ebling, on his way to watch the launch, was certain that the Challenger was going to blow up and everybody was going to die. And sure enough, when the Challenger did go up, and it didn't blow up right away, he breathed a sigh of, oh, God, we dodged a bullet. And then... Bob Ebling was an engineer at Thiokol. And he knew that the rubber O-rings designed to seal the joints between the booster rockets performed poorly in cold weather. And here's what he also knew. There was a severe cold snap in Florida, and the temperature was more than 30 degrees lower than on any previous launch. And he felt certain that those O-rings could not withstand that 30-degree differential in temperature. Now, the day before, the afternoon and the evening before, he told his bosses, we've got to stop this. He argued passionately for a postponement of the launch. He was on the phone in conference calls with NASA and with managers at the Kennedy Space Center. Overruled. Overruled not only by NASA, but by his superiors at Thiokol, who said, all right, we'll sign off on it. Here is a guy who desperately tried to get them not to launch. Here was a guy so certain of what was going to happen that he said it out loud to his daughter. He said it anguished to his daughter. He never recovered. It destroyed him. His whole world blew up that day. He was interviewed by the, newspapers and by the networks because as they did their try, what happened, it got down to the O-rings. And then information came out that there was concern about the O-rings that had been discounted. A year after the Challenger blew up, in a piece written in the Houston Chronicle, he was interviewed, and he said, I have been under terrible stress since. I have headaches. I cry. I have bad dreams. I go into hypnotic trances almost daily. He quit his job, and for the rest of his life, he faulted himself. And it's so sad because he did everything he could have. He did not have the final say. He would not let himself off. And some of you may have heard one of the most gut-wrenching, heart-wrenching interviews ever. Happened to have been on NPR, and it was last January, I believe. And they interviewed him on the 30th anniversary of the Challenger disaster. And here's what Bob Ebling told Howard Burkus, who was doing the interview. I think this is one of the mistakes that God made. You think you know where he's going? You don't. I think this is one of the mistakes that God made. He shouldn't have picked me for that job. I don't know. But next time I talk to him, I'm going to ask him why. You picked a loser. He became an environmentalist. He worked at a wildlife refuge in Utah. He worked his tail off. He used his engineering abilities. In fact, he worked so hard that 3 years ago he was named the National Wildlife Refuge Systems Volunteer of the Year by national organizations. So, history tells us that 7 people were killed when the Challenger exploded. But in many ways, Bob Ebling was killed as well. Never forgave himself. Okay, I'm sorry that's so depressing, but what a sad, sad story, and what a sweet man beating up on himself. Okay, that's it. I'm done. Tomorrow, got this guy I've been dying to talk to, the guy who formed this organization for ex-cons to give them a skill, to give them a chance, which is something that we in America apparently don't believe in. But he does, and we'll talk to him about something I think is one of the more important things facing this country is what we do about all of these incarcerated and formerly incarcerated fellow Americans. Because if we don't rise to the challenge, we will be moral failures. We will be able to say to God, why did you pick us? We're a bunch of losers. That's what I think. Anyway, goodbye.
Lynn Cullen Live, Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and archived at pghcitypaper.com. The opinions expressed on Lynn Cullen Live are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints of Pittsburgh City Paper, Steel City Media, and its advertisers.